Hi guys, welcome to Palace to the Call. My name is Stephen Dawes. Thank you for joining me and thank you for supporting the channel. Right, Crystal Palace against Millwall. There was a lot of excitement in the ground, and there was a lot of excitement outside the ground as well, which I'll talk about at the end. But it was a game which I thought was going to be difficult. You know, Millwall are a very tough team, and of course there is a history there with us. So I knew it was going to be a tough evening for us. But I wasn't quite prepared with the way that it went. I think generally speaking, first half and second half, I think that we had the majority of chances. We did have the majority of chances, and we had the majority of shots on goal. But I think that there was just something lacking in this particular match. I mean, we had Pino in there. He was back again from the beginning. Sosa, he was on there as well from the beginning. We also had JD Canville. He was in from the beginning as well. I was excited to see how he would pan out. We had Daichi Kamada and Will Hughes in the middle. So that was something which again I was hoping would work out quite well. And of course Mateta up front. But one of the things that I think happened was I think we perhaps had too many new players. And when I say that, I mean, you know, I know Sosa has played a few games. I know Pino's played a few games, of course. And obviously it was the first game for Cambo. But I think that I think it was a little bit too many perhaps, because even though we were dominating the play for parts of the game, and even though we had the majority of shots and the majority of chances in the game, I felt as though we were just a little bit too unorganised. You know, they were, I mean, their main aim was to put the long balls over the top of our defenders and have their striker running onto it, and they did that regularly throughout the game. And although it didn't cause us too many problems, Maxence Lacroix did have his work cut out up against their centre forward. He was really having a battle with him. And same way of course with JP. I mean, every time he got the ball he had 2 or 3 players around him, making it very difficult for him to actually do anything with the ball, which wasn't his fault. He was just being marked out of the game. But I felt as though there were too many mistakes in this game, and I think it was because probably we had too many new players in there. Oh, we also had SA, of course, who hasn't played very much for us as well. And so I think in general terms, I don't think they played too badly. I mean, Pino had another very good game. He did make a few errors here and there, and I couldn't work out whether he was getting genuinely fouled or whether he was trying to get a foul. I think a couple of times he was genuinely fouled and it wasn't given, which was frustrating. But he was going down as well a little bit too easily, which I think was a little bit disappointing. I would love to have him to perhaps stayed on his feet more than he did anyway. I think with Sosa, I thought he didn't have a bad game. I mean, you know, he was trying to get the ball, trying to get it forward, trying to make things happen. I don't think he did that badly. His crosses were okay, not the best. I think actually Pino's crosses, when I saw him in the other game, were probably a little bit better in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. And I think Canberra had a very good game. I think that he worked really well in the back there with the back three. He looked very calm, he looked very assured, perhaps lacked a bit of concentration at times, but I think that obviously it's his first game for Palace, and I think that he will become a really good defender. And I think that if Mark Gahey does go, then I think that he would be a good addition to the back three, because he did look assured. He kept it simple, you know, he wasn't trying anything, you know, too outlandish. He was keeping the passing simple, which I think is something you've got to do anyway. But I think, you know, being the first game, just kept it simple. But he was, you know, very often he was the last man back, making challenges or, you know, intercepting balls. I think he had a really good game myself. Sadly, I was disappointed with SA, and I think you could see the disappointment in Oliver Glasner as well, because he pulled him off at half time and brought on Uche. And it's a shame, because I could see what he was trying to do. I could see what SA was trying to do, but he just wasn't able to do it. He lost the ball far too many times. Sometimes the ball would come to him and he wasn't able to hold it, even it bounced off him or something like that. He just didn't really have that good a game, unfortunately for him. And maybe that's one of the reasons why Glasner doesn't play him very often. Maybe he sees this in training, but it was disappointing because I really wanted him to do well. I really wanted him to prove himself in that game, which is a shame. But yes, he was substituted at half time. Uche was brought on, who again I think had a really good game. He was strong. He was trying to run at defenders a few times. He was trying to get involved in the, in the front, up front, trying to get involved with the crosses that were coming in and things like this. I thought he had another very good game, so I was very pleased with his contribution as well. And the only problem I had with the game, and it went on for the whole game really, not so bad once, sadly once SA went off, it kind of stopped a little bit. It was a little bit better. But then Gahey came off in the second half, which was a little bit of a surprise, but I think it's more about resting him than anything else. And Richards came on, and I think it was one of those things where I think we were just trying to play with too many players who hadn't quite settled into the side, and we were losing possession too easily. We were being opened up at the back a little bit too easily at times, and you could see the frustration on Gahey. You could see Daniel Munoz was getting frustrated, and I think it's because it just seemed to be a little bit of a lack of understanding, which is understandable when you've got players like that who are new. Some of the balls weren't reaching their target, the passes were either overhit or underhit. Or sometimes one of the new players would put a ball in expecting the player to run onto it and he didn't. And I think it's just a matter of understanding. I think once these players gel a bit more, because they haven't had much training with the team, I think once they get more training and they gel a bit better, I think it will turn around, and I think we'll see, certainly from Canvo, a really good back three player there. I think he's going to be one of the ones for the future, if not straight away, because I think that hopefully Oliver Glasden will be impressed with him. Sadly, we did concede a goal right near the end of the game. Although we did score a scrappy goal before that. We scored. It was Chris Richards scored a bit of a toe in at the in their end, which was good to see. It was late on in the game, but it was good to see it because obviously we tried, but we hadn't really been on our game, shall we say. So it was great to see that ball kind of just getting popped in the back of the net. But then we had about 4 minutes of time added on to go, and they scored. Sadly, it was a flick on from a corner, which was disappointing. So it ended up going to penalties, sadly. But I think that when you've got teams like that who are have got new players in it, I think that it was understandable. Even though JP did have at the very last dregs of the game the opportunity to make it 2-1, and he put the ball high and wide. How he managed to get it high and wide, I really don't know. I think it would have been a lot easier for him to score it than to do what he did with it. Oliver Glasner said that it's a sign of his fatigue, and how he's been playing constantly for so many months now with very little break, and he says I think it's just a sign of his fatigue. So maybe Eddie Nketiah should be back for the West Ham game. Maybe he will change him for Eddie Nketiah. We'll have to wait and see. But I think from what he was saying, I think he wants to try and rest JP if at all possible. But we'll have to wait and see for that. But yeah, the penalties was good. Walter Benitez saved a couple of good penalties, and all of our penalty takers did the job for us, including Justin Devaney, who had another great penalty for us, and we got through. I mean, I think that it was perhaps on balance probably right for us to go through, but I think we had Millwall were working very hard. They were closing us down, they were harrying, they were marking really well. They weren't making the game easy for us at all, so I think it was difficult. It was always going to be difficult against Millwall. But I think that I'm just pleased that we've got through and we can go on to the next round now, and hopefully we'll have a few players back like Wharton and Nketiah, of course, as well, and things should progress from there. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of the game. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Just a quick thing about after the game, we all piled out of the stadium, and the police had roadblocked all the way around Selhurst Park and left a corridor for the Millwall fans to go down to the train station. Of course, we didn't realise that was the case, so we were going down the road trying to get back to the car, and there was a police cordon there, and it was getting quite people were getting very annoyed at the fact that they weren't allowed to get home, basically, even though, you know, the police were trying to separate the fans, which is fair enough. But yeah, it was just, you know, at a standstill for a good half an hour or more. And then when they did let the fans through, they let us through the smallest entrance, or the smallest gap between one of the vans and a wall, which was literally no wider than a door. Hundreds of fans trying to push their way through it. It was really dangerous, really dangerous. I would be surprised if there isn't an investigation into how this was handled, because there was lots of elderly people, lots of kids in that crowd, people in wheelchairs who couldn't get through because it was like over a hill you had to get through to this gap. Absolutely appalling. But anyway, let me know what you think down in the comment section. I would love to hear your thoughts. Please do subscribe if you've got this far. I'll see you next time.